Like clockwork, Jose Mourinho was once again incapable of holding down a job for more than 3 seasons. There's sure to be tons of reasons given by Mourinho as to why he deserved to keep his job, but none of that matters anymore because the truth remains that he has been sacked once again. Hey, I'm Adrian and welcome to Rabona TV, and today, of course, we'll be getting into the weeds of Jose Mourinho's sacking by Manchester United. I'll share my opinion, what some of you guys thought, and more, but let's start from the beginning, or at least the beginning of the end. At 9:45 GMT on December 18th, 2018, Manchester United released a statement titled, "Jose Mourinho leaves United." That read as follows, quote, "Manchester United announces that manager Jose Mourinho has left the club with immediate effect. The club would like to thank Jose for his work during his time at Manchester United and wish him success in the future. A new caretaker manager will be appointed until the end of the current season, while the club conducts a thorough recruitment process for a new full-time manager." End quote. So after about 2.5 seasons in which Mourinho won the Europa League and the Carabao Cup, and the Community Shield, you know he'll include that one, Mourinho once again finds himself out of a job. In fact, had he been sacked a day earlier, it would have been on his 3-year sacking anniversary from when he was last let go from Chelsea. By the way, he's now been sacked or left by mutual consent, which is the nice way of getting sacked, from 3 of the last 5 teams he has managed: United, Chelsea, and Real Madrid. Now, Mourinho himself claimed that the United job is the one that he had always wanted, speaking publicly in the past about the disappointment and hurt he felt when he wasn't chosen as the successor to Sir Alex Ferguson back in 2013. But if this really is the job that Mourinho had been hoping for all along, from an outsider's view of things, he certainly didn't seem to treat it as such. Rarely did we ever see the man smile, let alone joke around with the media and goad them like Mourinho's from the past have. This was a man that seemingly came into the job feeling defensive from the outset, as if he was letting all of the talk about him and his third season syndrome get to him. A manager who seemed jaded and a bit world-weary from Premier League football and the Premier League media circus that surrounds it. Now, some contributing factors to this world weariness allegedly came along from a lack of backing from Ed Woodward and the United board. Apparently, let me stress that, Mourinho didn't have as much control as he would have liked when it came to signings coming into United. Reports of Woodward handling recruitment and going ahead with signings without Mourinho's consent have been rife since Mourinho joined United. And Mourinho has never shied away from talking about the spending that his rivals have done in a, well, how can I compete with them when I'm not getting a single player I want kind of way. Should note that he did get to spend a lot of money on Pogba, Lukaku, Fred, Lindelof, Matic, etc. And while I personally can sympathize with that, because if you don't have the backing of the board, then that is a bad sign from the start, I also just feel as if Mourinho just lacked some spine while managing United. Sure, you may not have the players that you want, but as the manager of the club, you are supposed to manage. And I know that sounds obvious and stupid to say, but in my opinion, Mourinho didn't do this. Instead of working his ass off to find a system that perfectly suited the players at his disposal and brought out the best in them, he continued to go forward with his negative style of football, hoofing it up to a big man like Fellaini and hoping to just steal matches by a goal or right at the death. Of course, again, if Mourinho was here, he would say that he was doing the absolute maximum with the players that he had at his disposal, but I don't really agree with that. And this is where even myself and my father can get into arguments when we talk about Mourinho. Sorry, Dad. Hope you don't mind me sharing this. But my dad, bless him, he's a proud Portuguese man that wants to see a fellow Portuguese man go out there and win at life. And he sympathizes with Mourinho a bit in that he believes United have a terrible squad. And you know what? When you compare their squad with that of their competitors, well, here's what I said in my last video. The argument that United's squad is just crap, and I mean, that has some legs as well. They don't have a midfield, like at all. They consistently, no matter who is thrown in there, they consistently have a Chuckle Brothers center-back pairing. Ashley Young is not a good fullback, no matter what people say. Valencia is 67 years old. Shaw can't be trusted only due to his injuries. He has a ton of ability, but is injured too often. And no matter what combination is thrown out there, the attack is crap consistently and underperforms. Lukaku has regressed since his Everton days, etc., etc. I could go on throughout the whole squad, but the point is, besides perhaps De Gea, would any of United's starters and regulars feature in the starting 11 of any of the other current top 5 teams? Oh, and Pogba, when he's happy and in form, he could walk into most teams' midfields in the world. But as he is now, while he's unhappy, he's a walking haircut that does flicks and tricks and loses the ball. So you know what? I kind of agree with people like my dad who say that Mourinho had a huge job from the start with the squad he was given. And if it is true that the signings made at United were not his choice, then yeah, Mourinho was doomed from the start. However, here's the thing that annoys me here. Jose Mourinho, I've been watching him for a long time now, from when he first started out with my club, Benfica, onto his time at FC Porto. This was a guy who did incredible things with the players at his disposal. Sure, he spent some money at Porto, bringing in players like Nuno Valente, Paulo Ferreira, Maniche, who was actually free, I believe, Derlei, etc. But he also took those players, by no means big names in Europe at the time, and he led them to not only 2 Portuguese titles in a row and a Taça Portugal, but to a UEFA Cup title and then a Champions League title the season after that. Say what you will about their Champions League victory, their route to the final, and the final opponents themselves, but that was still an incredible feat given the players that he had. In essence, he took the players at his disposal, again by no means stars of major international notoriety at the time in their careers, and he set up a system that utilized their strengths to the max. He managed them. He did the same thing at Chelsea where, granted, yes, I'm not going to deny he was afforded plenty of spending which helped his efforts. Then he went to Inter Milan, for me the height of his career, where he won a treble with Inter as they played absolute lights out football, defeating Pep when he was in his pomp with Barcelona. Pep in his pomp. This was a Jose Mourinho that wasn't world weary yet and relished the idea of truly managing a club. A Mourinho who, yes, played games in the media, but didn't lambast his players to the point of depression and didn't create a palpable air of negativity around the clubs he was managing. Things regressed with Real Madrid, as you know, it's been said lately that he made things poisonous in Spain, even more so with his second stint at Chelsea. Hell, even in the season where he won the title again with Chelsea, things had begun to regress as early as January of that season. By the time he got to United, it felt as if Mourinho had had it with trying to manage, make do with the players he had, figure out a system that works for them, and carry on. He would rather kick and scream in the media about the players that he didn't have, instead of focusing on the ones that he had, and play negative, hoof-it-up football, which at times almost felt as if it was a protest to the board, a protest born out of the frustration of perhaps not getting the players he wanted. On top of that, we saw a Mourinho that was far more willing to throw his own players under the bus publicly in the media in an attempt to protect his reputation, and then wonder why they wouldn't perform for him on the pitch. Mkhitaryan, Shaw, Pogba, Martial, these are players that got it the worst in his time at United, with Pogba and Mourinho undoubtedly having the most poisonous relationship out of those mentioned. I mean, after Mourinho was sacked, Pogba posted this on Instagram. Now, it may have been a previously scheduled sponsored post that was just incredibly bad timing, but the optics of it don't look good given their relationship. But anyways, a Mourinho in the past wasn't prone to publicly shaming his players once in a while, but for the most part, he would take on the media scrutiny and bear that burden for his players. He would take their failings from a match and find a way to make it so the media would speak about him instead of them, almost protecting them at times in the past or at least sheltering them somewhat. With United, however, Mourinho was almost never willing to take on any of the blame, insisting that Shaw was to blame or Pogba wasn't good enough, which was true at times, of course. But again, we have to look at who is setting up the team, who is implementing the game plan that isn't working. And sure, the competence or incompetence of the players to execute a game plan makes things difficult for Mourinho. But let's say the players are not good enough for the game plan you're trying to implement. Shouldn't you be changing the game plan and tactics to one that they can handle playing? Isn't that the job of the manager? Even if we do concede that the players aren't great, shouldn't a manager of Mourinho's stature, who has won trophy after trophy in every league, not every league, shouldn't they have the pedigree to be able to identify that the tactics are not working for the team and be able to find a solution? You see what I'm getting at here? Leicester City's triumph is a total outlier in modern football and perhaps shouldn't be compared in this situation or any other situation really, but it's the first thing that comes to my mind, so bear with me. Claudio Ranieri knew what he had at his disposal and implemented a system that worked perfectly for the players he was given. He didn't try to implement a tiki-taka style reminiscent of Pep's 2011 Barcelona team. He instead utilized a system that got the maximum out of his players. Mourinho didn't do this, in my opinion. He failed on perhaps the most important aspect of his job. And I think that this is the ultimate conclusion here, because the players at Manchester United have nowhere to hide now. We're going to see very soon whether it was Mourinho that was the problem or whether it was the Manchester United board. If this same crop of players excels under another manager, then the answer will be clear. Mourinho's unwillingness to adapt and modify his tactics to best suit the players he had available to him was ultimately his downfall, feeding into the narrative that some news outlets are publishing that this was a cash cow for him, citing the fact that he never even bothered to get a home in Manchester and lived in a hotel suite for the entirety of his time with the club while spending as much time as possible in London. There's even rumors that he scheduled an early morning training and then the next day a late training so that he could spend that 24 hours in London with his family. But if this same crop of players do fail, then it paints a very damning picture of not only the quality of the squad, but the mismanagement of the club as a whole by Ed Woodward and the rest of the board. The proof will be in the Christmas pudding very soon here. Thankfully for United fans, their interim manager will have an easy startup against the likes of Cardiff and Huddersfield and a free-falling Bournemouth to get things started. Well, easy in theory. We'll see what this squad is made of now, as I just said. Anyway, that will just about do it for this video. A bit of a ramble, but hey, now I turn the microphone to you to get a little ramble going in the comments section. What did you get from the news this morning? Was it the right move by United? Should they have given him until the end of the season? What do you think? I created a poll this morning asking whether Mourinho deserved the sack, and at the time of making this video, over 1,000 of you guys voted, with 79% of you thinking that it was the right move. I think a lot of the no's were people saying, oh, I wish that Mourinho would stay forever as a Liverpool fan or as a fan of insert blank big club here. So be sure to let me know your opinion, and if you enjoyed this video, then a like is appreciated, and if you feel like subscribing, we'd be happy to have you in this growing community of football fans. Regardless though, I'm Adrian. Thanks for spending some of your precious time with us, and we'll see you later. Take care.